Hi, guys. Welcome to Anniversary Live. We're here with Rebecca. So,
Hi.
so this is something that you and I have been talking about for a while, about doing for a while, and just kind of going
Yes.
over, yeah, some of the way that author looked at things and thought of for the secret. So, for anybody that doesn't know, why don't you tell us why you're here talking about Arthur's ideas, your co-theory with him.
Yeah. Um, well, first, I'm really debated doing this. I'll be very honest, because Arthur and I worked very closely on all the different hunts, right? That for the secret, we worked a lot on the Golden Owl as well in
Yeah,
France together, and Archie always had this mindset that he wanted to entrust someone local with the theories to check them out and so forth, rather than really going public with everything for all
sure.
sorts of reasons that was his. Um, but I really felt that it was doing him justice to present at least one of the theory. Um,
Right.
I've contacted Brian Mills, with whom we've actually shared his theory about 2 weeks prior to Archer's death. So, like, it was the very last theory we worked
Oh,
on, right?
wow.
He was super okay with the fact that I was gonna make it public
Sure.
to say it like that. I just felt like by exposing one of these theories, he actually really gives everyone a bit of an insight in his mindset, right? Well, how did he look at any of these paintings?
Right.
And I don't know if he applied any of that when he created any of his hunts, but it's interesting anyhow.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And yeah, I guess we can say also that I was one of someone that you guys recruited for the Houston
Yeah.
hunt. Yeah. And so yeah, we still have big plans for the Houston thing.
Mhm.
So we're getting some heavy equipment in there.
Never know.
Yeah.
It's a bit deeper than it used to be, if we're right. So let's put it that way.
It's a great theory. We won't really get into it, but I mean, we can if ever, but it's a great theory. And I was really shocked when I went boots on the ground of exactly how precise, like how it gives you an exact spot, and you need nothing but your eyeballs, you know what I mean? And it was really fun that day when I went boots on the ground for you guys. And so we'll go ahead and get started. And my first question was, did Arthur believe that the paintings have a storyline opposed to just kind of a collection of clues?
Well, I think Paulus put like a very nice post about how Archer look at things, right?
Yes.
Holistically and
Right.
individually. It didn't believe, like in his own words, it was a full master key that would unlock every single one of them in one go, right? He
Right.
sort of felt there was really a framework for every single one of these paintings. And he, from his artist's point of view, always believed the entire setting of the painting was very important,
Okay.
right? If you were looking at the Boston painting, the
Hmm.
feeling that this is a pilgrim that is on a boat on a journey to the New World coming into Boston. So
Right.
normally she'll come in by, the North End, so like the region where we find the cask and so forth. So like the entire setting actually matters.
Hmm.
And he always sort of trusted those little things that were out of place, that
Mm.
needed to be there for a reason. If there was an odd shape that didn't fit, if like in the Montreal painting the fingers are weird, there's a reason for it.
Right. For
Uh,
sure.
in the Roanoke, I mean, you're gonna see like as it represents the same perspective, right? Like what are those little key things that are totally out of shape, and that should drive your interest fully,
Sure.
outside of like, we know this is like a city identifier, so that's an obvious thing. What's that little home plate here on the Boston painting? Like maybe
Right.
we should pay attention to that. Right?
That
uh,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah. He also viewed each of the paintings where the gem's location really mattered. Like for him, it's an indication of your dig spot. This is
Yes.
how we always viewed it.
I love that.
Know it for Houston. It's not different for any of the others. So like, in Boston, like, in the baseball field, that was the hair, right, of the lady. And the fact that it seems to be, if I'm not mistaken, it's like third base. So like probably you needed to dig towards third base. So like things like that, right? So just little nuggets that were hidden. And just before we pass, and I've put it in the overall like really theory we're working on, matching a lot of the paintings with Da Vinci, right? And we felt like these little things actually mattered. Like, why did he pick like the Virgin in San Francisco? Why did he pick like this Italian monument, right, for the Cleveland cast? Why is there like similarities between his work in Houston and reflection work for shadows in Da Vinci, and so forth? So we were looking at that as maybe that's the clue to unlock how this painting works, right, to get solved. But I mean,
I love that because it makes so much sense when you think of an artist created the clues in the paintings, right? And I've always thought this, and I've always asked, I've bugged Cole about it a million times, and he's been wonderful, but he's like, I can't really tell you much more because I still make puzzles, So, but I was like, Cole, how does an artist look at things differently than a regular person? So it makes so much sense that one of the most world-renowned, most famous of all time artists and artworks are going to be someone that would be studied by JJP, could be playing a part in the different paintings. And I love that you said like the Virgin in San Francisco, because it talks about even the litany talks about her being chaste, like it chases the silver pearl and things like that. But I love that I feel like an artist's eye can pull out so much more meaning from an artwork sometimes than someone who's never studied or never looked at that there are a set of elements. There are a set of things that paintings are built of. Yeah.
Yeah, he was always looking at it like this. Like, for example, like the Milwaukee painting, he kept telling me, why is she looking like this?
Exactly.
Things like that, that we may not think of, but like in his artist mindset, perhaps like he was viewing, right? So
I liked this, and I skipped a slide. We'll go back to it, but I liked the visual of like the blank canvas, right? You have to start with a blank canvas, and you've got something that you've got to build in these clues, and how are you going to represent them, and how are you going to build them? Yeah. And so that makes a lot of sense for the first thing that you guys looked for, right, in your puzzles.
Yeah. Pop culture. Everybody knows, Arthur knows how much I love pop culture, right? Like in the Seattle one, like you've seen the Jimi Hendrix kind of
I love that
mustache, and also how like the pants of like Bruce Lee. There's a lot of little pop culture connection, and we love to do that with GDP's painting. Like, what's the inspiration here from the 80s? And, this big one with Roanoke, obviously, with Excalibur. But, and everybody knows the reference to Time Bandit with Chicago. But we felt like the Boston hero looked like a Xanadu, like the movie with the roller skates.
Yeah, nice.
And, there was many little things like that along the way. We don't think it really played a role per se, but it was like little nuggets of the time, I guess.
Sure. And you have to have, if you're staring at that, I would imagine, if you're staring at that blank canvas, you have to have some sort of inspiration. You have to have some sort of reference, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think last time we talked about Blue Sage puzzle number 3. Arthur had used a huge pop culture reference, several, but and a statue as model for the main figure. And so we know that not only did maybe Arthur look for those things, but maybe that was one of his favorites. You have to gather influence from somewhere.
Yeah, it's highly likely that there's some within the anniversary. Beyond like the David Carradine type of thing. If we think it's David Carradine, of course.
I think it is. I mean,
it's likely a lot of these. Yeah.
I could leave open, like, I mean, of course, I leave the door open for almost anything, but I mean, that was my first thought was David Carradine, and so yeah. Um, okay, okay, so another thing that would be important when an artist, I would imagine, is trying to formulate how to get these clues across, would be using something that's kind of a part of the base of knowledge at large. You know, pop culture is part of the base of knowledge, right? That we all just
Of
kind of
course.
know.
Yeah, of course, of
Yeah.
course. Like, I don't know if it was intentionally. I don't know if it's us that was seeing things in like retrospect. I don't know if it was intended in the secret, but we love to try and find those little matches. You
Yeah.
know, like we like for New Orleans, we thought the hand looked a lot like, you know, them. What's the, I don't remember off the top of my head the movie, but there was kind of this figure holding a stick, the Dark Crystal, but that came like in
Okay. Yeah.
82,
Yeah.
right? It came in 82, so that was a bit maybe
That was
too
huge.
you know, so, but you need to have point of references, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, it's yeah, and
Absolutely.
we know he's like, if he's notorious for hiding little things just like that, right? And that doesn't just to play with your mind or just to see if people are going to spot it. So
For sure. And we know that JJP has talked about that before. He's in an interview that he did with for his blog on Muddy Colors.
yeah.
Yeah, he had talked about how he keeps a notebook that he's had for years, like I mean decades. And every time he sees something poignant, like he used the reference of something coming across the news, a social issue, like a social injustice or something like that, then he would capture that moment in his journal with whatever um visualization, you know, like poignant visualization, I guess, that could
Yeah.
get that across, that kind of captured it. And he would just keep that in his journal. And then once he goes to do a painting, and if that he goes back to his journal and looks for things that he'd like to convey in that painting, and he hides things, you know, symbolically or subtly in his painting. So I thought that was really neat. But if you guys haven't checked that out, it's muddycolors.com, I believe, and it's a set of artists that it's a really prestigious set of artists that you have to be invited into, and he has a blog there. JJP does. Yeah, so that's pretty neat. So when you and I started talking about doing this, and you gave me the PowerPoint of you guys' theory,
Yeah.
and I had already known some of the points because we had
Yeah.
talked about it, like gosh, probably a year ago, if
Yeah.
not even longer than that. But I I love this theory, and once I had read the theory and I had studied the theory, I thought, you know, um, I just want to highlight. I think it's kind of a little bit different than the normal theory presentation, but I think that the best thing we can do is just to highlight these three key points. In my opinion, these are the
Mhm.
three key points that are just wonderfully clever, and they're beautifully simplistic, right? And then because you guys have a lot of supporting details, right, that can
Yeah.
be built into the scaffolding. But I really love that. I thought tonight it would be the main takeaway that would be great for everyone to get is that
Mhm.
at its core, this theory is it only has three main points, and it's so clever and so simple that it's just beautiful in it. So if it's okay, I'd like to just kind of jump to those three main points and kind of spoiler alert. But so key point number one, what is the rebus or the illustrated wordplay that you guys theorized?
Yeah. You probably know by now just so much like Archie love rebuses.
Yes.
And he's been notoriously hiding them in his own treasure hunts, right? In this one in particular, one of the elements that everybody knows is that there's a bridge symbol, right? Some
Right.
people think it's a baseball, and some
Correct.
thinks it's a bridge,
Yeah.
but there's two of them.
Yeah.
There's two of them, right? So,
Yeah.
and when you look at his breastplate, I mean, there's another symbol in a circle, just like the bridges, and it's a cross.
Right.
So we came down with this idea, and obviously you can take it which way you want, but you have to cross the bridge twice. You have to cross
Yes.
two bridges,
I
right?
love that.
Not just one, But two, now, I mean, obviously, debate is going to be open. Like, do I need to go to the lost colony and back, to the
Sure.
wing, which is something that a lot of people do,
Hmm.
or do you need to do a bit like we did and we crossed the other one, right, to go into
Right.
Dare County instead? Um, so bottom line, there's a reason why there's two bridges out there. That's
Right.
probably because you have to cross two bridges.
And when you say the bridge symbol, just for anybody that doesn't know, this symbol is commonly used on both maps
Yeah,
and or like road signage, right?
yeah,
For the bridges. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have a circle around it when it's used on the road signage, but it does have
yeah,
the bracketed arms. Yeah.
yeah.
And then, so for key point number 2, where does this rebus take you?
Yeah, well, for us, we start on the first bridge on the outside of Roanoke, and then we cross over to Dare County. So we go to Redstone Point. We're looking for Redstone, right? So we're
Right.
going to Redstone Point.
And I love that because no one can
Yeah.
deny that the red stone is very, is very relevant in this puzzle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're sort of essentially putting an historic spin on it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like as you go through like the entire theory that we've made,
Right.
the colonists, they're lost. They were lost. We don't know. When we look at the elements on the painting, they make you go through the lost colony. We're a bit
Right.
like John White when he returned and he was looking for the people of Roanoke, right?
Right.
He found two messages, like we have two bridges.
Right.
He found a tree near the water, and then he found another tree that had the word creating on it. We don't know where they've been gone. I mean, they love theorize that they made it to mainland and walk off into history, right?
Right.
So a bit in that perspective, we're a bit like John White. We're getting lured into dark forest, but
Right.
we really have to go look for it. We're not finding it. It's because they're somewhere else. So,
Right.
and a bit like the Excalibur that we have as
Yeah.
well on the painting as an inspiration. We sort of led to the dark forest and search for the Holy Grail, only to realize it isn't there. So, cross the bridges into Dare County. Just follow the historical trail.
Right. Okay. And then for what I take as key point number 3, that in this like simple, clever scaffolding, what is the shape of the landscape once you get across that bridge?
It's like the bell. It's essentially like drop bell when seen from above. So it's within the painting. It's again like, why is this particular bell a bit different than the others, right?
Right.
So it's not a conclusive 100%, but it looks
Sure.
very similar. You even have a little line passing through that
I
you can
agree. Yeah.
so
And I love that not only could you see this from Google Maps or above, but I mean, look at that. I mean, that would easily be noticeable boots on the ground as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. Okay. And then now that we've gone, so I wanted to do those 3 simple key points because you guys do have a lot of supporting stuff, but I didn't want anything to get lost in that this theory comes across as complex because it boils down to what could be very simple, right?
Yeah.
But now the fun part. So tell us about all the fun stuff that you guys found.
Yeah, well, there's this Excalibur, as you see, right? That's a movie I actually really like. Although it's kind of darker than your like regular Excalibur stuff, right? It's really much. It really is. But I mean, 1980. This is what's out there. As you can see, like the breastplates are very similar and crowded with a lot of stuff. You have like the shoulder pads with like the similar type of dots. You see one of the guys there with a helmet with the horns, right?
Exactly, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Even if you like watch the movie at some point, you have one of the I don't remember his name, but like he's one of the bad guys in Mildred. I don't really remember his name, but like he's got kind of a feather like type of skirt with
cool.
gold plates, right?
Yeah.
and it's really crazy, like armors out there. So we felt like maybe this is where like some of the blank canvas inspiration came from. We're
Sure.
looking at like Sir Walter is a knight. He was locked in a tower, a bit like on the painting, actually. If I could say, he's shaped like a bit like a jousting tool for
Mhm.
like scarecrow, right? That you will hit with a bag to make it
Yeah.
spin, like you would do with your knight. So we
A
felt maybe it's an
quintain, I
inspiration.
think. Yeah, they
Yeah,
call that. Yeah.
it's possible. Sometimes my
Yeah.
English is not 100%. So.
No,
So there you have it, the pop culture inspiration. So yeah.
sure. I love it. I mean, obviously, like as soon as you look, you see all the rivets. The rivets are very prominent in the photo. In the painting, the asymmetrical um armor and things like that. And the horns, like, yeah. Yep. Very
Pretty
cool.
much out there. Yeah, the Da Vinci connections. Like I said, one of the last few things we're discussing a lot is like there seems to be always something that points back to Da Vinci in every single one of the painting. Maybe it's just like the pop culture, maybe it's an impression, but it's not. Maybe it's that key, right? that
Yeah.
how do we need to look at this, right? So like this one, I think it's been mentioned quite several times. I think I remember Ashley mentioning it as well. The Vitruvius Man, right, by Da Vinci. I think it's a very, very obvious match that we have here. And when you look at it, it's coming from a book called The Architectura. And that's a book in which, normally you talk about inventions. So like when we think about Roanoke and the aviation, and certain of these things. So like, maybe this is what we need to look at. And that gives us
Sure.
some ideas when the gift giver,
Yeah.
into the gift giver, we'll get to that. But like in the Codex Atlanticus, where you have some of his most famous engineering work,
Hmm.
you'll find stuff like the crossbow that you have on the chest of the scarecrow, or you'll have
Right.
the flower of life, which is pretty much like the dots that you
Oh,
have on the
nice.
he's got the kind of pulley systems in there with the plumb bobs, right? It's got the aviation tool that the one of the potential wingless birds in Montreal that we have with like those strings hanging out, and in one of the slides you see like he looks a bit like a flying,
Right.
like
For sure. Like,
aviation.
as
So
a child, when you go, yeah.
yeah, so when we look at this, we're like, maybe there's something we're missing. It's related to engineering. So
Yeah.
that's how we got to our bridges
Well,
eventually. So
I love that because also, like, that's kind of like you just said, like the gift giver kind of touches on that too. Like the Vitruvian Man, he's all about symmetry, right? And then the gift giver touches on what could possibly be move something from one side to another to achieve,
Mhm.
symmetry, or like even out the sides, or yeah. Arthur
Mhm.
loved, he was
Yeah,
very active in that post was so much fun.
yeah,
Just everybody working together, the brainstorming that was on that post, it was a blast. Yeah.
hmm
And but it had a lot to do with, like you said, the physics and symmetry
yeah,
and things like that. They could very well, I mean, even without seeing Da Vinci's work, those things can come to mind, even just seeing this painting.
yeah.
Let's see. I loved this. I hadn't seen this before today.
The Roanoke, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, the framework, right? Got a very single painting, so you have
Yeah.
the coordinates there. You have the bird. We say this is a this is the cardinal. I have many resin cardinals here.
I
I
love that.
love them to bits,
Aw.
with the feathers, and obviously the map, right? It's hard to say that it's not a match. I've seen quite a few people on Discord mentioning it's Philadelphia, over the years,
Mhm.
but I'm sticking with the fact this is Roanoke. So you have like typical framework, right? So
Right. I love this. Like you said, like, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of all of the latitude, longitude, and of course,
yeah,
the land by the window, but I had never seen the cardinal idea before, and that has always been one of the most mysterious parts of this painting. Because we're like, what is that? And it makes a lot of sense that JJP would need something to kind of, I don't know what the right terminology would be, but just kind of something between the two, like the base and the
Yeah.
armor. Yeah, to fill that space to make it, and yeah, that it makes a lot of sense. So I love that idea.
We were convinced that there were some shapes in there that really mattered.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah.
obviously, the way that everything is stretched almost looks like a pier of some sort. Never found anything that convinced us 100%.
Yeah.
One of the things at Redstone Point, though, is that underneath there's a lot of purple martins, right? So like there's always birds flying about. So
Oh,
we don't know, like with the painting, with the how you get underneath the bridge.
yeah.
Maybe the stone.
That's pretty cool. I like that idea.
But there's something more in there. But
Yeah, I
I'll
love
tell
that.
you what it is. And then, like I said, we talked about aviation, right? As part of engineering, I think it's obvious when you look at the verse itself. The arms kind of being an airplane, and there's a little clover in there, right? The little
Yeah.
clover is very, very tied in to luck, but also to aviation, with some famous stories of aviators carrying that on them, such as Lindbergh, so much as the third flight as well with Rogers. It's pretty well known. Any book where you're reading about the story of aviation, you figure this out. So we loved that and thought it was an important hint. Again, we thought maybe the L shape in which it is meant something, but I don't really have something to share. But if people are interested and have ideas, I'm all ears. So
I love the idea of the clover. I once saw, and this was a real, like it was a reproduction of a real poster that would have hung in the Army Air Corps. So before there was the United States Air Force, they had the Army Air Corps. And it was a list of things to take with you on your flight. And you would not, this list was so scary. It was like, take a wrench, take a screwdriver. It was just like, it was basically like, you're signing your life over. You know what I mean? Like you have no idea. Like you just want to fly so badly that you are welcome to, like, it was the funniest thing. I wish I could remember what it said because it was really funny where you're just like, oh my God, like these guys were like, yeah, like, don't forget your wrench because you're going to have to do you might have to do some, engine maintenance while you're like careening down towards, to try to get your, I like this. Evie said L for Lindbergh, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So looking again at aviation, back to like kind of the giver, right? Like what's at the bottom of the strings? And even Da Vinci, obviously we thought maybe at first they were plumb bobs, right? They did their bit shape weirdly one from another. I put a very lengthy description if you guys want to know what it's just used for. But my nephew is currently training to be an aviator, and he really explained to me how they use it normally really to balance out the plane. So yes, you'll have them at a different height or distance if you want to balance your wings.
Sure.
And how sometimes you'd have them to mark certain distances or like to measure certain stuff, especially with engineering. So they use that for like, okay, maybe that's why like you need to weight certain things with the plumb bob. That was an idea we had.
I like it. Yeah.
Until we got into the stringer bridge concept, right? So,
here we go with the plumb bobs.
And then just showing a bit more, what they can be. But
the stringer. I think you want me to find the stringer, or should we just go?
We can go to the next one. Yeah. Anyway, like this is like for the bridges. Then like we went back. Maybe it's something else. Like when he mentioned that to me, maybe for measuring distances and so forth, and the engineering concept. We went back to our concept of the bridges. So like this is a very cluster idea of all the images that Arthur sent me that he believed looked like bridges. So I can, put his mind, like in his mind, I wanted to show everyone that in his mindset, these were all bridges and some way or another. But since there was only two that were enclosed in the little circle with the cross, then it's only those two that are part of the rebus. The rest are just like copy for you to think about something.
Sure.
Right?
It makes sense because it's long been said that repetition would be one of the best ways to kind of call your attention to
Yeah.
something, the importance of something, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that he definitely pointed out, and you can go to the next one because
Okay.
it's sort of carries over, is the fact that his arm extends on out the outside, right,
Yeah,
of the painting, and how one is closed and one is open, right? A bit like if it's showing like a point, and you have to go to the other side,
I
right?
like it. Yeah.
So like you have the two bridges extending, and it sort of felt like the horse represented Roanoke and what was around, like maybe representing your journey a bit on the Scarecrow. And we felt, if you look at the map, I mean, this was only two bridges back in the days, right? In 1980. Now there's more, right?
Wow.
You need to put yourself in those mindset.
Yeah.
There was the bomb bridge, and then there's the other bridge on the other side, taking you to Dare County. And we remember that the gift giver did mention it's in Dare County. I don't know if you remember, like all
Yes.
the
Yeah, that's true.
Dare
Yeah.
County, that's there. It's that
Oh, I hadn't
specific.
thought of that.
Roanoke
Is
Island, it's Dare County. Yeah.
it's also different. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Yeah, but, I'm like, why would it be so broad and say Dare County and not just Roanoke Island? Like, is it
Right.
because on purpose, said searchers are looking a bit like everywhere, the Outer Banks, the island, and so forth, or
Yeah.
is it trying to tell us that we have to get out on the island because you know what, guys, it's on the other side. So don't know if it was a nudge or anything, but we took it like that anyhow.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I could see it. It's like historically, most likely they did have to go in. I mean, they talk about some like maybe going down the Outer Banks to Hatteras, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would have been a little easier to see them, there, and so maybe they did go in. It'd be a lot harder to find them, I guess is what I'm trying to say, if they went inland. Yeah, and their actual plan, I think, was inland. If didn't they have a contingency plan and they said we'll meet you? Yeah.
Well, this is what I've been reading. Is it true? I don't know. There's so many theories.
Sure. Exactly. So. Yeah. Okay. Here's your stringers.
Yeah, so like based on the bridges again. That's why we talk about this to Brian, because it's got a bridge building history. So we're like, are we crazy? Do we understand this right? Like the keys are really like on the string, right? Yeah. And when it is a stringer bridge, and you can see the strings within the post here, and you have to have them keyed and fastened into position, right? So they're going to be bolted in, and that's why we think maybe that's why the keys are at the end of the string, like they keyed in, So, so let's think about again the bridges and just keep an open mind, and maybe that's the engineering key that we're sort of looking for lack of a better pun. So yeah,
JJP did say that there's a lot of icicles involved, like mechanicals and things like that. So I mean, I wouldn't think it would be a stretch for this one to be like physics or like I think of physics when I think of architecture and building a bridge and having to engineer those things. Yeah.
I mean, we cannot go past the fact there's so many references to the Elizabethan gardens, right? So I think those are like pretty old, common, well-known, and accepted in the community. The pier pad, the entrance to the gates, the pillar, all of these things. Everybody understands them. Everybody sees them. I think commonly accepted is like, if we were debating some of the key elements of like other paintings that were solved, but it's a no-brainer. It's there because we're going to pass through there. It's part of the way. So it shows you that you're on the right path and to continue, right?
I agree. And then I really like, it's on the next slide. Okay, so I'm not going to say it out loud. Hold on, let me send this message to George. Some guy, our IT guy is watching this. I guess I'll just say I get instead of try to type this out with my one finger. George, get in here. We're just talking about Roanoke. You can we're not talking about the anniversary. You can totally fair game jump in here. Okay, so
Oh yeah, he could.
yeah.
I wouldn't mind at all. I'd get his feedback live and trash me. No, it's a joke. I know he wouldn't do that.
Somebody said that was an evil giggle, Rebecca.
I know George
Ashley said,
loves Roanoke, so yeah.
George loves to talk about Roanoke.
So that's the verse, right? The verse. I think this is a very classic, like, from about halfway through, it's the very classic type of verse understanding, right? Past the different of octave in December. I'll be honest, in December is like a kind of a line that we feel is quite blur, right? It's like we wish we could understand why in December fully, to be honest. But octave for us had kind of two meaning. Obviously, there's kind of the Japanese hint that claims it needs to be a proper noun, right? So then octave really relates to the right national memorial in itself. There's also the fact that when you're going to cross the two bridges, you're going to pass over two sounds. So if you wanted to decapitalize it, then you're going to pass through musical interpretation, right, for an octave. Yeah. So
the bells too, even, yeah,
if you wanted to. So let's start there, like we always do. Cross the first bridge, the Men of Oz.
So you guys don't like the take Highway 12, I think it is, for December?
Oh yeah, that could be that. That could be as simple as that.
I think that's the common.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. So right, the Men of Oz, to the land by the window, I think is pretty simple. That's really a connection, because we always felt there was a little connection between the verses and the painting. There was one line that really takes you back to the painting, so you can sort of do your match in here. So here we go through the Man of Oz, which is the bomb bridge, and to just go over, right, to our first portion of the challenge. And when you look at the painting, the land by the window, it's kind of the eastern side where the hand is closed. So like you cross over to the second portion of the painting, and then you continue your journey towards the west. So yeah,
I like it. And then also, now that we're talking about this, kind of interesting, I've always wondered about this line on top of the island, and the way that I guess it mimics stonework in the wall. But you have an odd line just coming straight off the top of the island, and and then in one just coming straight off the bottom too. So maybe
two bridges.
Yeah. Let's see.
And obviously there's a road.
Sorry.
There's a road dog forest. That's telling us which destination to take, because when you go off the bridge, you can't go either way. So we need to take the road that goes to the dark forest, and as we know, it's written in stone. At the entrance, it's hard to miss. It's hard to deny this is the right answer.
Right.
And so we're gonna do just like John White and many knights of King Arthur, trying to retrieve the Holy Grail and make her way to the forest. And then you have it here, like where white is in color with two maps. Again, a very obvious one, but this is where we started thinking a lot about the fact that John White found nothing here, so why would I find something here? Okay. Yeah. But again, you have your two maps there. And it's a pretty it's a pretty obvious thing that we have something to follow through. So it's on our journey. I think it's on the next slide. You're gonna see like a bit of the mapping that was
yes, I like that.
Right. So after circle and square, it's just telling us where those things are, right? So like the circle for like the roundabout, the square of the parking, with the maps and the entrance. Where we're gonna keep going, to follow the July and August, and eventually take the path that beacons, essentially. So
I like it. And I love the tie to the Freedom Trail for obvious reasons, with the whole theme of the book. Yeah,
definitely. Like I said, you're going to pass the July and August, so you're going to make your way eventually to the path that beacons. I mean, that's, again, it's written in stone, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's a bit hard to miss.
Right.
And sort of argue as well. So
And
of
I
course,
think
the
the
no-brainer.
Virginia Dare Monument is right here at this dot, right? Like next to the visitors center, or is it further? No, it's, oh, I see.
A bit further
Yeah, it's
down.
marked
Yeah.
here. Yeah, it's marked in the AK. So
Yeah.
you after Circle and Square, then you go down and you've walked past the maps. Yeah, it's all
Make
marked
your
out
way to
right here.
the
And
July
then
in
you,
August. Yeah, it's
yep,
pretty
July and
classic.
August.
Yeah.
And then right beyond, it's the
Yeah.
next path, right? That beckons. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, so then we've passed the Virginia Dare Monument.
Yeah, we consider like her way,
Yeah.
towards Elizabeth Garden. But one of the big thing for us is we always believe there was a fee, it's not there. So like if you have to enter the Elizabeth Gardens to see the matches and everything, which you might be tempted to,
Sure.
we don't feel like you had to pay to go dig, or that it was not on a payable location. So at this point, you've seen the Elizabeth Gardens. There's some things in the mapping, you're on the right path. However, we sort of found the path, the beacons, the way that everything was positioned, you had to go a bit towards the south. so this is where we see, once we reach here, Elizabeth Gardens, that path that,
Yeah.
to become Driftwood, which is the Freedom Trail. So like we've done the map. So like you show someone that gets into the Elizabeth Garden, perhaps, this is what most do. But what we do is we go around the pier pan and we go down the Freedom Trail. That's where like we're starting to be different than most, I guess.
And I love this because I hadn't seen this before. But it says the comparison between the road and the cul-de-sac and the spoon in the P is easily made. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
common. That's been around. And but it could also be a nod to the English immigration hunt because split pea soup is the London particular. I
Yeah.
like that because I can imagine if you're an artist and you're needing to make a clue of a pea, and you're in the English, because if you're trying to get to Pea Island, right? The Pea Island Survival Station, which is where I believe we're going next at the end of the Freedom Trail. Yeah. Then you're trying to think of what could pea be as a clue in the English puzzle. And that's great. I mean, and it just so happens that there's the perfect mountain line there of a spoon and a pea, or what could be like a pea and a spoon. But the gift giver this year reiterated the pea, like, guys, you're missing something. Why is there a pea in the spoon?
Yeah.
And then of course we have the Pea Island Survival Center that's right here at the end of the Freedom Trail.
Yeah, so essentially, you go you go to Freeman Point, and this is where you're going to be meeting your second bridge, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I understand that it can be tedious on foot, but thankfully you've been on your car the entire journey. So if you know where the entrance to Freedom Trail is and you know where the exit is, I mean, you can make your way. You don't necessarily need to be on foot to fully see the big picture. I mean, you've been on foot for a period of time discovering about the lost colony and how they never were found in there. And then, there's the other trail down there. So we make a way, but just continue our journey going down that path, right? And we could, the beach sand and driftwood, flowing into the beach, and that's it, right?
George just commented on that. Have you walked down the Freedom? It's long. I mean, look at that.
It's not long. I mean, you're talking about a girl who does like hiking with like two young boys, 8 and 10, for over like 15 kilometers in mountains with rocks. So, I mean,
hear that, George? It's not a problem for Rebecca. She's going up Mount Royale. Oh, it's a swamp.
Oh, I've done worse.
Just keep throwing it out, Georgie. Rebecca is not. She's not phased. She's like, she is. Actually, she is dauntless and inconquerable. That's funny.
But you're in your car, George.
See, that's where the second map comes in handy. You got the map, you know where you're going.
Exactly. You should know.
You
Hey,
don't have
local,
to
you
walk
should
through the swamp. You could just be like,
know.
hey, there's a trail. Let's drive down, see where it goes.
I told you he was not going to agree with me. That's okay. So there you have, like, I've got nets. After
That's
on the
funny.
comments, I can see what he says.
Although I will give George a point on this one. The swamps in the south are probably, I don't think you guys have swamps. Do you have swamps?
Of
No.
course we do.
Yeah. You
I've just
have
been hiking where I need to be dressed like a beehive person.
a beehive.
You know, like, you know,
ready, George.
last
She's got
week we were hiking in upstate New York, and we
the
had
gear.
net hat and the bug sprays. We do it. We're Canadians. We're tough. Yeah, we don't
That
mind
is awesome.
the black flies, the mosquitoes, the midges combined, and everything else.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that, but you guys, you know, you think of have you ever seen any of the natural shows about like Alaska, and the bugs are so big that yeah. All right, she's ready, George. She's ready. She's not scared.
I would gone through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to. You just drive down there.
But I love it. If he wants to connect after, we can speak. I mean, I love to have his perspective on it. So, like, you know, when you have this, you know, the second bridge, which is the Onset Bridge, right? So this is the continuation of your journey, right? So, last touch, because that you know it's your last foot on the ground of Roanoke. You know, when you're crossing over, it's the first bridge that was seen standing as well, because the first one that was built technically, right? So
the first bridge built to the mainland. Okay.
Exactly. So, and you know, there's another bridge today, the Virginia Bridge, but it wasn't there in 1980. So you have to just think about these two. But essentially it's the first one. It's 55, so it's the first that was seen standing, essentially, right? So now you cross over and you go to that particular section where essentially this is where like her kind of vision stops, because we're definitely not boots on the ground. We understand that there's a lot of challenges if you want to dig around there, but we felt like this was around there, that we were like pretty much on our boots on the dig site ground, which is on the western side. Now we've crossed our two bridges. And as you've shown, you know, you have the shape, which is the bell shape with the line in between, which is the road, which is very similar. And yeah, so like, and Archer kept seeing bells everywhere.
Yeah.
So like, you know, on this particular slide, you just felt the shape was everywhere, right, on the painting. And he definitely felt like if there was a reason for it. Like, it's not like from his artist perspective, it's like if you integrate the same shape multiple times, is because you're supposed to think about it and there's a reason behind it. And for him, it was definitely the shape of that particular bridge pier. So that's yeah.
And that goes back a lot, I think, to an artist and how they think of shapes, and shapes is one of the central elements of how things are built. Like, just like elements in chemistry, you know, everything is built from these elements of arts and these principles of design. And it's really interesting if as a non-artist to study them and to look into them and to look at that is really how everything is built. Like, everything is built. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all for him to have an eye for the repetition of shapes. And this could be a really big takeaway for us in the anniversary hunt, if there is, you know, if we look for a similar repetition of shapes, perhaps.
Yeah. We're just showing a bit the grounds in 1982 and just how, you know, shoreline receded quite a lot. So So that's important to keep in perspective. Go back in the area of time. Um, it's yeah, there's a lot missing today. So, what was it exactly like back in the days?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I really don't know. But it gives you at least the shape of the time, right?
Sure.
And there's likely been redesigns and so forth. But yeah, where it's the kind of like realization that makes your heart sink a little
Sure.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his perspective was really to look under the bridge. I'm not sure how easy that would be. Like, we would need someone very local to tell us about this.
Yeah.
I've never been. Honestly, it's far away from me.
Sure.
But he really wanted to explore it, because if you look on the painting where the redstone actually is, it looks like, you need to go underneath something.
Okay.
So he
I
really
mean,
felt that was an interesting spot, but it could have been, like I said, redesigned. There's a lot of things that could have changed, right? So
it looks like there's at least some dirt. I mean, it may be concrete right under there, and just sand drifting from the wind or whatever. But it does look like there's land there. Like it's just a concrete curb, and then there's land under it. So, I mean, I would think there's hope. It's worth checking out.
yeah. This is a quote that he had sent me that I wanted to put in there. It really felt like in the watch there was almost like a second gem, right? Because of
Oh,
how
okay.
you view the shape, right? And
Yeah.
this is like what he had sent me. So and so part of the watch, JP added another gem, as they often are in watches and clocks. This one right there screams, "Looky, looky, I'm here, right here in the shade." Yeah, I'm sure you can all hear his voice when I'm saying it.
Aw.
And the tip of the minute's arm is triangular, pointing right at it. So Archie was working a bit on this idea that triangles mattered on the painting, and they were an
Hmm.
indication of something that you have to focus on.
Okay.
On the painting,
Interesting.
which may be a dig spot indicator, or something like that. So
Yeah.
I haven't had the chance to really see everything that he was working on, because he passed, but he was working on this kind of idea towards the end, that maybe there was something like that in the paintings.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then, if you look north, you need to see the wing, right? Into the wing, which we do actually.
Yeah.
We can see it easily on Google. So, like, if you have binoculars, you're gonna see it. That's a given. So that ticks the box of seeing the wind.
Sure.
If you look north, then perhaps it means you have to be on the northern side of the bridge. That's a perspective as well, because if you'll be on the other side, you wouldn't see it. So
Yeah.
that's giving you which side of the bridge you have to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and if you look on I think it's on the other slide, there's this little white dot that is famously hidden in Seattle's painting.
Yes.
That indicates the dig spot.
Yeah.
He felt the same about the painting for Roanoke. So like he was looking at those particular dots, like, why is there a dot there? So like if you look like at the bell, that's like shaped a bit like kind of the bridge pier. Have this little white dot, kind of the northern side, right? The same thing if you look at some of the other elements, right? If you look like at the horns, one is got this white dot compared to the others, right? It's like it's always at the northern side, on the same side, on this perspective. And so if it really felt like, since this was coming back over and over again, it was important. And I know we have some of those white dots on the anniversary painting as well. And I know he's done it for Seattle. So maybe there's something there. I don't know.
I love it. You'll have to point those out to us, regular folks.
and to dig to achieve vitalness and inconquerable now that you've been bitten in the swamp. There
you go, George.
Determination, you've reached your goal.
Did you say that Brian Mills was your boots on the ground partner?
It hasn't been, but like we've been showing a bit of the theory to him, right? And I don't think he had the chance to actually but give us a bit of feedback on it, from an honest perspective, and just see if we're off with the stringer bridges idea and all those kind of engineering concepts as well.
I was just gonna say George Bryan would walk down that trail. He has his beard to protect him, maybe, but
um, some final indication in the painting. So in the redstone, you see the symbol of a bridge.
yeah,
This is
I
what
really
we
like this
see
one.
here. How it's called Redstone Point. That's a
Yes.
nice little nudge. And how one of the bells is on the other side of Roanoke, right? So on the well, the right side for us anyway, to Dare County mainland. Those may be little additional indications on the painting. So as to the dig spot, right?
Well, I love that because we know that Arthur has used some of these techniques, right? In especially in the Blue Sage puzzle number 3. And so we know that not only does he feel like that's how JJP did it and how the Secret did it, but that he's used some of those techniques too. So yes, I love that. I'm trying to get a picture of Paula's message here. Let's see. Okay, hold on. While I'm working on that, let's see.
Yeah, so the final journey is just illustrating like what we walked through, or drove to, along the journey, just to learn a bit about the historic part of the of the reasoning here. So that's it. Yeah, essentially, right?
Wow. You know what? I did notice this earlier today when I was, but yeah, if you see the notch in the just what would be above the gem in the painting, the notch in the waistband also mimics that bell shape. Yeah, I did notice that earlier. I noticed like the idea of the point of the island being similar with the redstone point, but I didn't notice that the bell. That's pretty cool. Oh, let's see. So then next we go.
And just kind of a summary, right? Of what I said at the beginning.
Yeah.
The colonists who they were lost. They're supposed to have made it to mainland, according to some people. Some theorists out there walk off into history, if that's the way they've been. And this is where this trail is normally going cold when you're trying to figure it out what's happened. Price walking us through the lost colony area, just like John White when he returned found those 2 messages, just like we found like our 2 bridges.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially make her journey out because there's nothing in the dark forest for us to seek or find. If if that's the perspective you want to take on it,
Yeah.
I mean that's one. That's how we sort of viewed it from an external point of view. And just like the Knights of Archer were haven't found a holy grail in there. So you've learned something about yourself. You've learned some history, and you just continue on the journey to where the final cask is supposed to be. I know that one of the fun fact that Archer like is the one I've put in there, which is the fact that Walter Riley baptized Manteo.
Yeah.
He was the Lord of Roanoke, the island, but also in that word that I cannot pronounce, which was the western side of Man's Harbor, right? Where we had an interest. This is supposedly the village mainland where Mateo came from.
Right.
And, if you read the play, they're supposed to have followed him. The play of Paul Green, where
Yes.
about the theater and so forth. It's if you read it, they follow Manteo, so likely it's the mainland. So maybe so shall we. And honestly, that's it. I think I don't think I have anything else in there. So
Yeah. Oh, it's bedtime. My
husband's taking care of it.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's see. So okay, and
Yeah. think that was
I'm
it, right?
Give me 1 second. I am working on getting that post that Paula had put up um with the quote from Arthur, which I agree does a beautiful job of kind of summing up the way that he looked at things and just kind of his philosophy, I guess you could say, in a way. Let's see. Let's put that as. So give me just a quick second on that, and I'll get that on the screen hopefully. And I'm just gonna make it a PDF. I should. Sorry, you can hear my computer dinging at me when it's like, no, you can't do that. Okay, so now all I should have to do is just load it to.
I'm looking at the comments. It's very quiet, so either people don't agree or speechless.
Yeah, it has been quiet. I think everyone's there we go.
Oh, that's sweet. I don't know.
All right, here we go. Now, yeah. I thought this was great when she shared it, and I thought it was just a great snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good summary.
Yeah.
I'm just pouring myself some water at the same time, but yeah, that like there's not a single master key that's like the solution to everything, right?
Sure.
When we talked a lot about the bookends, right? And it's more like, it's the journey of immigration more than anything, in his mind.
Yeah.
Like I said, like the fuzzy logic, so those things that are really out of place, right? Like, why is there the same shape over and over again? Why are the keys on the string?
Yes.
Certain things like that for him was extremely important. It gives you some examples. They're not exactly the same that I've given you, so it's great.
Yeah, it is great.
Like the Milwaukee lady standing on the forest trail, right? Like, in his mind, this is what he was seeing.
Yeah.
But he was always like wondering, why is this lady looking behind? As well, like trying to read the emotion. She's supposed to be scared of something,
Okay.
Things like that really always caught his attention. And he really felt those were the little tidbits of the Polaroid, right? So that's what we should,
right?
Yeah, that we should be paying attention to. Definitely.
George had a name for those. George, what did you call them? You called them like intentional, was it mistakes? Intentional artistic how you talk about like artistic leeway or artistic, but he had a really good name for it, and I think it was the best that I've heard it described as, but it was like intentional, I want to say it was intentional mistakes where you're like, that's not quite right. Why is that like that? Yeah, so I'd love hearing you connect that with fuzzy logic, because to be honest, when I read fuzzy logic, I wasn't really 100% sure where to go with that. So it's great to have something tangible that to connect it, like to.
Yeah.
And so
so definitely on the anniversary, there's things that we all focus on, right? There's definitely some things that are totally out of place, and it's up to us to try and figure it out, because it's probably in a similar fashion.
So are there any I know that you have shared a lot, like you've shared your ideas on Facebook and on Discord, both, about the anniversary painting. What do you think about the idea of theme, I guess we could talk about, because, or storyline to the painting? Like, do you feel like because the painting itself, it's beautiful, and when you look at it and then you really start to like look into the details, you're like, it's like a secret painting, you're like, why are they doing this? Why is this floating or falling, or like what is going on? Do you think Arthur painted the painting, I guess I'm asking, is as a snapshot, like as a moment in a dynamic scene, I guess?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You look at the pictures like that. Like I give you a bit like the Boston setting, right?
Yeah.
The pilgrim coming on a boat, like in front of like
Yeah, the portal, and yeah.
porthole in English, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we're coming to like the north end where like the pilgrims arrive, and how you have the Peregrine Falcon has the same root word as a pilgrim, right? So like there's different keys in there. It seems to play. She's supposed to be a witch, right? So like that's the same era. The verse
Yeah.
talks about Revere. I mean, it's all the same region. So he definitely looked at it like that. Like in Montreal, I mean, it's not a secret. Archer was 100% a verse 8 terrorist.
Yeah.
He thought the reason why there was a Rembrandt is definitely referencing the heist of 1972 at the Musée des Beaux-Arts, and that's like part of your journey, right? So I think that's a huge Dutch, like big reference. Like for him, that was super important. That's why it's painted like that, So all the settings for him really mattered, and there was always a reason why they were picked in that
Okay.
particular setting. Like, I said, like, the Virgin for San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Where like, most of the elements seems to be referring to duality, where you have like a man and a woman and certain things, but you purposely pick a female. Well, it's got representation of Apollo, right? So like, you have Apollo and his twin, you have like Diana, we have Diana, out there, and there's other virgins as well, and maybe that's a connection. So like he was looking at it very realistically.
Okay.
And also, all those elements, the setting of the painting really mattered. In Seattle, like it was the Emerald City, right? So like
Yes.
you really have it, you really have it there. So there was a big reference to forests,
Green. You were surrounded by green.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why if you're like proposing to me a location where there's a big lake, I'm not gonna like it. But I always feel like it mattered, right? Like the snow alignments, I cannot get past. On the anniversary, I can't get past the Hercules. I just cannot. So like if you don't have a good
Yeah, it's
explanation for it, I'm out. So it's like that.
And anyone who doesn't know what Rebecca is speaking of, it's the constellation Hercules that matches up beautifully with the position of the gems in the sky. So what do you think about the setting of the anniversary painting? We have the water, and we have everything is blue, right? So surely that must be important. And I know, you've said it out loud, so you don't mind me saying like what? Yeah, that you're a big fan of Salt Lake City, right? Or and so do you feel like, that could easily be the answer to why the man is in water and why water is so prevalent and stuff like that. I don't know, I guess, like, what do you think about the painting? I guess, like, do you see anything we don't see, I guess, that you'd be willing to share? Yeah.
Think so. Like I've been trying to see if there was not maybe some legends, right? Like I was watching like, the other day a TV show, and it was about Maori people, and there was this theory about how lakes like sometimes were created by the tears of like some of the goddesses and so forth. So like maybe it's something like that. That's why it's in the water, like with a ritual or something, right?
Sure.
So, I like the Hercules for me, and the concept of the dream goes with the Olympic dreams. Like I'm not gonna lie, everybody knows I love like Salt Lake City very, very much so. I'm a avid visitor of Lake Placid. So, and like even in Lake Placid, you have a plaque outside of the arena where like,
Mhm.
with the magical, hockey
Yeah.
game, that we all know about.
Yeah.
And about like the guy dream of dreams and his dream came true. It's written like that in stone.
Yeah.
I was there a week ago again. So I'm
I mean,
always
that could easily be a dreamscape. It could easily be like a magical dreamscape, I mean, yeah, so those things could definitely, it all goes back to me like for me, I try to imagine like, okay, when I'm trying to think through, is this a possibility for a theory or whatever? Um, then you just kind of take it and you're like, okay, could this be about Salt Lake City? And then you're like, okay, if I'm an artist and I need to get across a lake, how could I do it? And does that match up with the painting? If you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
yeah. And so do you think this is kind of a off the wall kind of question, but do you guys use instead of thinking, does this clue fit this thing? Um, or I guess I was going to ask, does this clue fit this thing? Um, it's kind of hard to answer, right? Because we could kind of stretch most things to fit a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
Um, have you ever used that idea of, and I'm assuming Arthur did it all the time, of how could an artist convey this clue? And what would you write a clue about this thing? And that seems so much more specific than, does this
Mm,
random sentence or this random something fit this object,
it's
I
a good
guess.
question, honestly. We
Yeah.
never really approached things like that. So, to be honest, when I think about the Salt Lake City inspiration, I mean, obviously, there's this big match I personally found with like the Great Salt Lake brochure, which is almost an uncanny match, with the painting, right? There's also one particular myth that I sort of found along the way,
Yeah.
um, which was there used to be kind of a festival, a carnival called the Wizard of the Wasatch, right? Like
Oh,
the Peter Toth statue that we have for Salt Lake City. The name is Chief Wasatch,
okay.
and there used to be an arch. It was a temporary arch in Salt Lake City, 1916 or something
Okay.
like that. And it was built for a mythical princess. And it says her tears caused the lake to be salty. So I
Oh,
really like that. I mean, I'm biased, of course, because I really like Salt Lake City. But I was like, well, you have like this guy in the water with throwing the salt, right? So like
yeah.
maybe it's
Yeah.
salting the lake. I don't I don't know. But, um, we never really talked about how would have been like painting this sort of thing. Like he was more into repainting the paintings to understand the paintings.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
he's painted the Montreal painting. He's
Yeah.
painting the New York City painting.
Yeah.
And when he passed, he was in the process of finishing the Charleston painting. But
Wow.
he essentially were was breaking down like all the
Yeah.
elements with his brush just to see what seemed to be like
Yeah.
unnatural. So,
What an amazing process, though, because once you have to reproduce it, it, well, okay, through through my occupation, like I had to learn a lot about neurology. Like I used to be a physical therapist assistant,
Mhm.
and so we would use a lot of the plasticity of the brain to work around injuries to the brain or injuries to the body, and so we would. It's really amazing how your brain works, but if you change the task just a little bit, you can actually call in totally different areas of the brain.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you're going to, if someone asks you a question and you have to formulate the answer verbally, it uses different pathways than if you're going to formulate the answer written. like if you're going to write about it, and just like little things like that. And so it's just really fascinating. And so whenever I heard that he was recreating the paintings, I thought, oh my gosh, that's brilliant, because when you have to reproduce the shade, the shading, the shapes, the lines, the everything else, it just calls in like totally different pathways. It's engages different areas of the brain. So like, I mean, we all talk about Arthur was so brilliant, but he was just using so much more of his brain on these
Yeah.
puzzles than than I am. But I just, that was kind of where my question was going with the whole like, I wonder if artists look at it not only like, hey, is this line of the verse? Could this be this line of the verse? But what would you write for that line of the verse? You know, it calls in
Yeah.
different areas of the brain.
It's more like there's a story
Yeah.
behind the painting than anything, right? You're like,
Yeah.
okay, so like I'm standing in front of like that white page, and I've got
Yeah.
to make something about, you know, Montreal, and the elements that I have are showing me this and that. And also, you know,
Yeah.
let's do it that way. Maybe knew more than what we think. I mean, honestly, but yeah, to him there was really always a story behind the setting of the painting itself. Yeah.
I love that, because that means in the anniversary painting, then sorry, we have one more story from him, you know?
Yeah.
But I love that a central figure that we call like the central figure, the man or whatever, he has a name. Like he has like a story, you know? So I love that part.
Yeah, very likely. And I don't know if anybody's got the breakdown of the clues. I don't have it. I'll be very honest. I don't. So, you know, it's not something that's been passed by the family. Certain things were shared, but not that. That's not something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that I should have anyways.
Yeah.
If I was to play, I shouldn't have it. You know, so yeah. I hope it's somewhere safe, and that, you know.
Yeah, I do too.
You know,
I would be surprised if it wasn't, just because of, you know, just what I think of how Arthur was, you know, like I would be surprised if it wasn't. But I'm with you. I'm like, Salt Lake City makes so much sense. And but I feel like we're missing something. I feel like we're missing our cross two bridges, you know? And so it's kind of exciting that we might just have that aha moment coming, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of theories out there that are very interesting, and they're not Salt Lake City, right? Yeah. So there's definitely a little something that's missing, like you say,
eluding us. Yeah,
like I've seen a theory about Memphis not so long ago, and I liked it. There was an Hercules in there, so I liked
where?
It. I think was it Ashley that shared like a Memphis theory?
Oh yes, okay, yeah,
yeah. You know, sometimes I'm like, Salt Lake City's far from Florida, even Ohio, but you never know.
Yeah. I could see Memphis. I mean, you know, you think of Memphis and like the Delta blues. I mean, the whole painting is blue. He could easily be standing in a Delta. You know, there's just so many possibilities.
It's like Lake Placid. You know, I love Lake Placid. I'm there way too often, to be honest. But I know at the same time there's a Lake Placid in Florida, so that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, Florida keeps me up at night because I'm like, is it? No, maybe. I mean, that's where I'd bury it if I was doing a church run. Be like, yep, it's an hour away from my house. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's someone in Salt Lake City, though, I have a spot, I want to check it out. But you know, the person I ask is not responding to me.
Oh no! Okay,
let's put it that way.
I know somebody in Salt Lake City. She said she's like 15 minutes outside of Salt Lake City, so I'll send you her name. She was ready. She was gung ho. Like I really like that one. There's a spot in Salt Lake City. I couldn't get the verse to get me there, but visually I was like, dang, look at this. And it was on the lake, on the shore. It was like a
A solitaire.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it was the spiral
Yeah.
jetty. That's what it was. And I was like, dang, I'd be out there flipping some rocks like crazy, you know? Um, but the verse, so I guess, but she was ready. She was like, oh, I'll go check it out, girl. Let me know. So
Yeah,
all the,
yeah, no, it's an idea. When I was in Lake Placid, I don't know, I sort of took it as a sign. So I wanted something checking out in Salt Lake City. Like I have this Rip Van Winkle
yeah,
figurine that Archer's made because it's what's on the cask, right? Like for Montreal. So I have one. And when I
yes.
was in Lake Placid, I found a book, and it was the Rip Van Winkle book. The
Uh,
place where I found it, I was like, that's freaking clever.
yes.
So I was like, maybe we need to do something similar, right?
Yeah.
So so I was wondering, yeah. So I have questions, but I know the picture I have from the place is like 2018, so it's old. It's old, so I need to see
Ah,
it today.
okay.
And today you need to flip something open. You need to flip something open. This is like what I had to do to get the book.
Nice.
um,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
I like it.
so in Lake Placid, so and I was like, maybe it's a sign. There's a reason why I'm stumbling into this Rip Van Winkle book
Yeah.
right here out of nowhere. So,
I might be remembering this incorrectly, but isn't there something in the front of the book? No, it's a leprechaun. It's a leprechaun that sleeps for 100 years, or he makes you
similar
sleep for
story.
100 years, and you wake up with leaves in your pocket instead of his gold, or something in the front of the book.
Yeah,
But
there's sort of a reference in the front of the book to Rip Van Winkle
yeah,
when they talk about the Dutch, but more like in the Catskill sort of setting, right?
okay,
In the
yeah,
state of New York.
yeah.
But then everybody who knows the geography of Montreal knows that Montreal used to be flowing with tons of streams. And when they've built the big parks, they've just like made all the streams go underground under the park
Oh,
and
huh,
rerouted everything.
huh.
So we're a big mountain with tons of streams.
Yeah.
That's changed a lot
Oh
throughout
wow.
the years, especially in the 50s and the 60s. A lot of the streams disappeared. Yeah.
Oh, y'all got a lot of stuff underground. That's pretty cool. Because I was gonna say, oh, down here we probably just fill them in, and then they just would be no more. But I love the idea of like rerouting them underground. So that's much better. Much more responsible, eco-friendly. So is there
Like I see Facebook user, but who needs a friend in Lake Placid? Who needs something?
let's see. Hold on, let me
For me, everybody's Facebook user.
yeah, I know. Yeah, even I saw some people, thank you guys for putting your name. I thought that it would work. George. George needs a George. You
Which
need
Lake
a friend in
Placid?
Lake Placid?
Lake
Hmm.
Placid, New York, or you need a friend in Lake Placid?
Huh. That was not the name. I figured that would be like pretty much anybody else. Is what I assumed that name was going to come up.
Yeah.
But now everybody's going to read into that.
Oh
So,
no.
although, I guess, yeah, I won't say, but
Yeah, there's a
definitely.
treasure in Lake Placid. There's a box of whiskey buried by the Canadian. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Never
That
been
would be a good
retrieved.
reason to need a friend in Lake Placid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
We've been looking a bit for it, but no luck whatsoever.
That's
I'm going to
yep, he said exactly. That's exactly what he was talking about. Yep.
yeah,
That's a really good reason to need a friend in Lake
yeah,
Placid. Oh, I
yeah,
can't remember what the name of the hunt or the name of the whiskey that was buried, but I do remember.
it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. There's somewhere a whiskey crate. I'm going to to Loch Ness this summer, and there's a crate missing there as well.
Wow.
Maybe we'll look out a bit, but I don't think
Yeah,
we're
you
gonna
have
find
to be on the
anything.
lookout. Yeah.
I'm gonna enjoy the whiskey anyway.
Oh,
So
Canadian Club. Okay. Yeah. So that's it. That's the reason why George needs a friend in Lake Placid, I guess. George, what's the cut? If if Rebecca goes boots on the ground and finds it, so what do you guys, you gonna split it? 50-50? Yeah, we're just teasing. But I guess, is there anything else that you that stands out about just kind of Arthur's philosophy of the secret paintings or anything like that? Oh,
Just no, just it just like kept an open mind, I guess,
okay.
and and honestly, he was in this for the people a lot. I know he's really missed. I know he
Yeah.
touched a lot of us, right, in all different ways.
Mhm.
Um, but honestly, it's just to keep looking and just to keep the faith that these are still out there. If you haven't been
Yeah.
successful once, like I've dug his spot 3 or 4 times, Montreal unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% positive it's the right place, but I'll keep looking forever. Also, like this thing is out of the ground, but
Yeah.
just not to discourage yourself, to just always go back and see what you may have missed was like standing out. And
Oh, I love that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
just sometimes it's not that you're wrong about the spot is per se, but like maybe just this exact dig spot, or you maybe
Sure.
just diverted from a little a little few meters, right? But
Yeah.
just keep at it and just keep the faith, I guess, and never lose the big picture and what's standing out, right? So I don't know what else to say, but
Um, John Williams, who's down here in Houston with me, he said he would really like to hear Arthur's thoughts on Houston, that he never got to discuss it with him. And I was one of you guys' boots on the ground partners for Houston, right? Augie and Steve, believe it or not, like Steve
I
Yokel
know
is
it's
the most gung ho now. We have big plans.
I know. He
Yeah,
mentioned it
we
to
are
me.
gonna hit that park. Like we have like Ocean's 11 going up. Like it's kind of fun to talk about it. But it's pretty funny. Um, but would it be okay for me to tell a little bit, John Williams, a little bit about
Yeah, I mean, personally, I
kind
don't
of
mind.
like we talked about, like the clever, simple keys
Yeah,
of for
yeah.
Houston.
I'll go get
Um,
it. We can illustrate it in 2 seconds. Yeah, you can speak.
so John, for Houston, um, we all know about the Melville quote, right? And so I think one of the really big key points for Arthur and Rebecca for Houston was the Melville quote. And not only does I think everybody kind of uses a lot of people use, oh, I have mine too. I should get mine. A lot of people use the Melville quote to get Herman, right? Herman Melville. But if you read if you track down the Melville quote and you read the further down the paragraph, it's like within that same paragraph, you get to the three fates, and one of those is
It's her, yeah, Atropos.
yes, and I'm gonna probably butcher this name, but Atropos, yeah, is one of the three sisters or the three fates, and in Houston, in Herman Park, as you know, there's the Atropos Key statue that's right on the hill at the Miller Outdoor Theater. And do you want to tell him, like,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll tell him the rest because it's really fun.
Yeah, well, first, if you go back to what I said for Roanoke, the location of the gem, if you go and look at your book and you look at Houston, the gem is on this shape, right?
Yeah.
So like it's in the middle here, more or less. The Miller was made, well, they have the columns, which are like for the Meckham, right? Obviously, what used to be at the
Yep.
Millers
Originally, it had the
before.
colonnade, the
Um,
columns. Yep. And
on
then those.
the Houston painting as well, you have this slab, right, that's coming out. It's an
Mhm.
exact match for the footing of the Miller Theater. Even you even have the Miller like as part of like the kind of the gin, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah. The head.
Yeah,
yeah.
Archer loved to think that it was nudged against the Miller because of like the Oliver Twist at the front of the theater, right? So he loved to say that. But um, again, with Da Vinci being all about reflections and shadows, it's not really a shadow theory per se, but the essentially, you have like the four like. I mean, you have like its three wings, here not at the bottom. This was given by someone who's called Woodward. So if you were to look through the wood, essentially through the eye, and point the miller at the top, which is the apex, right, of
Mhm.
the building, essentially you're doing like the staff of Ra, solution of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, of Indiana
Right?
Jones, exactly. Yes.
So, from your pointing ground where you're standing, if you look through the key and you look at the top of the miller, essentially where the gem is in the center, then you're at the dig spot. So that's how, like, yeah.
And let me tell you, one of the funnest things that I have ever done in The Secret is go boots on the ground for you guys in Houston, in Herman Park, and line up the Atropos Key with the apex of the Miller Theater. And okay, I was easily 100. I would, if I'm terrible at distances, but I'm gonna guess 100 feet from the Miller roof line, and probably another 30, 40 feet from the Atropos Key. But you get on and you get down and you line them up like exactly where they are. And guys, I would have never guessed how precise this alignment was. Like, it was crazy. It was like, if I moved, so I got my phone down there so I could send them, the images and stuff. But so I put my camera on the bottom, so it was like barely in the grass, but literally, if I moved like 3 inches to this side, it totally threw everything off balance. And so then I'd move back. So then I would just show them, I'm like, okay, I jumped, 6 inches aside, and it was totally out of balance. And like forward and backwards, it gave me a spot. I had to be within like 2 feet, like forward, backwards, and then like very precise, like an exact line in from like left to right is the area that it gave me. I would have never guessed in 100 years that that's how precise it could have indicated a dig spot, but it was a blast. It was really fun.
Yeah, I know the key moved a tiny bit. Apparently it was closer to trash cans, so we're not really on the exact spot either.
Yeah.
I know that they
Yeah.
raised it as well,
Yes.
right? So like instead of being like 3 foot down, it's probably 6. So it's terrible.
That is the part that we're battling right now, right? That's why, like I said, we have these Ocean's 11 plans and stuff, but yeah, the hill was raised, and we don't know if the statue itself was moved because it's on a concrete pad, and it talks about how the hill was raised 3 feet. Well, when you go and you stand on the hill, the outside crest of the hill is higher than the Atropos Key. So it goes up a couple of feet, like from the Atropos Key. So we don't know 100%, was it moved? Was it raised as well with the hill? Was it, so we don't know. And that's the tough part. But yeah, but it was a blast to go. And yeah, we just need some technology in there to check it. I see Alan's watching. Alan wants to know, we had talked about like disguising his GPR like a stroller. Well, he's like, we were gonna like make it look like a stroller, and yeah. So we'll get it checked. So yeah, but so have we missed anything? What have we missed? Have we missed anything?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, if some people like the theory and they can check it out, definitely.
Yeah.
happy to chat with anybody who wants to talk about it. You can tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. It's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
We're all wrong until like we're right,
Hmm.
right? And
Right.
there's many great theories out there. We're just trying to get an open mind, and that's it. Check it out. I mean, that's what we do in Montreal, my husband and I. You know, if you
Yeah.
submit a place, you go check it out. You may not like the answer I'm going to give you. I may tell you that, you know, you're not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. I don't see matches. It's not great. I'm still going to check it out because what do I know? Right. What do I know? I don't have a cask on my shelf. But hopefully I give you a bit of an insight into
Yeah.
Archer's mind when it comes to reading the secret paintings. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can find this anniversary one, but it doesn't mean that you apply the same techniques.
No.
It doesn't
Yeah.
mean, but it's good to see a bit more of how his mind is working, right? So you
It
can
is.
read the painting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just wanted to reiterate, like, I know we went over like a lot of details, but you guys' Roanoke theory was not complex at all. Like, it had a lot of supporting details, but at its core, it had those three like incredibly clever, like beautifully simple key points um that then were that then you could find repetition with or support for in the painting and stuff like that. So I think that's great. I think that's something we can really hopefully take into the anniversary, that we're looking for something
Mm-hmm.
simple, and we're looking for perhaps like repetition to back it up, and things like that. So
Mm.
yeah. But
Right.
yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's good. It's very good. To share, I think Arthur's ideas. I think he'd want them probably shared at this point.
Maybe. Yeah, that's what I'm telling myself as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd
If
rather, like I said, I'm not gonna disclose anything that we talked about without anybody we shared it with,
yeah,
you know, agreeing to it. That's to me very important, right? There's reasons why
yeah,
we shared it with you, or you know, with Brian, or like we shared our New York theory with Nicola and Caroline.
yeah,
I was gonna
yeah,
pronounce it in French right here. So I mean, like we talk a lot with Kate about San Francisco,
yes,
you know. So you
yeah,
know, if you guys don't mind me saying, it's fine. I know he had a philosophy behind it and reason why he was not sharing them,
yeah,
but part of me would rather at this point, like after so long, have the theories out there checked out,
yeah,
so that maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, and
yeah.
we can just move from there, right? So
I think so too.
if that makes sense. So you know, I like for these to be checking it for his memory's sake.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, if nothing else, I think there's something wonderful in looking at it's we all enjoy sharing our ideas. We all enjoy reading other people's ideas. And I think there's something wonderful in looking at another person's ideas and go, wow, that is really clever. Like that's yeah, that's really very clever. And I think that's probably exactly what we're looking for. Like George said. Um, that when he figured out what he thinks is like the illustrated play on words or the rebus or whatever that Arthur used in the anniversary, that he's like, that's clever as hell. Like that is so clever. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's something special, I think.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So, but thank you for Rebecca for doing this. And
It's a pleasure.
yeah, anytime you ever have anything you want to chat about or whatnot, yeah, you're always welcome, of course, always. And yeah, so
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you. Have a good evening,
You
everyone.
too. Thank you. Bye.